Welcome to the Conscious Living Podcast, conversations to educate, empower, and enlighten our world. An uplifting and inspiring series of conversations and talks with your host, Jackie Woodside. We are educating minds, empowering lives, and enlightening souls to create a world where love prevails. In this engaging podcast, we deliver exciting, positive, transformative talks and teachings designed to elevate your life. Now, let's join our host, Jackie Woodside, for this week's session.
Hey there, how you guys doing today? Jackie Woodside here with another episode of the Conscious Living Podcast, where we are here to educate, empower, and enlighten our world. I'm so glad that you are one of the people that cares about this topic, about living in an enlightened world, about bringing your highest and best self, your awakened self, to how you live your life, how you engage in relationships, and yes, how you engage with money. So today I'm really excited to dive a little bit into that topic. As you all know, I also am passionate about our energy and vibration with money, with my book called Money Vibe and my upcoming film that will be out in just a couple of months called Your Money Vibes. So keep on the lookout for that. And in fact, you guys should all go and sign up to get notices for when and where the screenings will be. So go to yourmoneyvibes.com and just sign up to receive advance notifications because it's coming out very, very soon. So today I'm with a kindred spirit around this whole notion of being enlightened and awakened with wealth. Jai Baker is a financial expert. He's the CEO of Luminous Wealth. He's the author of, I love this title, get this, The Awakened Investor. So after a 2-year sabbatical from a 4-decade career as a wealth advisor, he redefined the landscape of financial management with his innovative virtual multifamily office. I'm looking forward to hearing about this. His unique approach combines evidence-based wealth management with the Blue Zones research, which is about longevity and well-being, focusing on holistic living that enhances longevity and quality of life. Those are things I am passionate about. Jai Baker, welcome to the Conscious Living Podcast. Why don't you say a couple more things about yourself so our listeners can get to know you a little bit more?
I grew up in southeastern Virginia and grew up playing the sport of golf. It led to a scholarship at University of South Carolina, where I played 4 years, was captain a couple of years, played pro golf for a year. But I got married in college, and after a year of playing pro golf and weekly receiving comments from my wife at the time, get a real job. I finally got a real job. And it turned into a 39-year career and have absolutely no regrets having left that life of golf. And so I've been blessed to work with incredible people in that span of time from all walks of life, mainly in the medical industry, but working with CEOs of publicly traded companies, economic professors at universities, and then building just a lot of great relationships through all of that. I mean, my work life really was a balanced life, actually, because I got everything that nourishes a person's day out of my work. All of my clients became my best friends, so it was a great social affair. It created outings that we went to. We created charitable events that we all got together and promoted and raised funds for great causes. So it gave me exercise and it became a spiritual experience. And so it fed everything that a person needs to have a balanced life.
I love that, man. So you were way ahead of the game even before you got into this space of holistic living and awakened living. You have an interesting name. You were born Tim Baker. You were the pro golfer as Tim Baker, but now you go by Jai, Jai. Tell us a little bit about the backstory of you coming into that name, what it means, and how you got it.
Well, it is sacred to me. I actually in the year 2005, in April of that year, I was looking to do a temple tour with Dr. Deepak Chopra's group to India. And I also was planning to go to a Secrets of Enlightenment course that he had in La Costa, California in October of that year. So I put those two on the calendar. And then about a month later, I pulled the temple tour off. I was just too important to my clients. They needed me so much. I couldn't be away for 2 weeks, and enjoy something like that, to experience that. And so I took it off. But in September of the same year, I lost my daughter to an auto wreck. She was 21 years old. And when that event happened in my life, the temple tour came back on my calendar.
Yeah.
And so it made it a very special event for me. And during that tour, we visited 5 different major cities, had dinner with the Prince of Tanjore in his palace one night, greeted by a fire parade. And we visited Chennai and Madurai and Swami Malai and Pondicherry and Tiruvannamalai. And in Tiruvannamalai, I was staying at the Sri Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi Ashram. And I woke up one morning at 4 a.m., did a 2-hour meditation, and then was walking down this wide, long path to the ashram for breakfast. And along the way, there were some breakfast vending carts on one side of the path, like you'd see in New York City. And on the other side of the path, where there's a group of men wearing orange robes. Well, these guys are sadhus. They've renounced materialism. Could be a 46-year-old attorney with a wife and 6 kids, and he goes home one night and he says, after tomorrow, I'm out of here. Right. And I don't hold judgment on these guys, but that's what they do. They go and try to live off the land, and they create a puja wherever their housing is that they set up temporarily. And anyway, so I gave the group of men money so they could get breakfast, and then I went on down the path for mine. And before I could get to the ashram, this one little guy comes running up behind me. He came up to about my chin, had this bald head, giant smile. He put his hands in prayer. He says, "Thank you." He says, "I name you Jai." I said, "Jai?" He said, "Yeah, Jai in Hindu means victory. Today was my victory. You gave me food." And then he put this holy ash on my forehead. And then I had a little short visit with him for the next day or so in the ashram. So that's where Jai came from. So it brings back great memories. And
yeah, what a beautiful story. And Jai, I do want to acknowledge and send my heartfelt condolences on the loss of your daughter. I have a 20-year-old son, so I choke up even thinking, what that experience was like for you and for your family. So my blessings and condolences, as I know that's not something that you get over. It's something that you integrate into the experience of life itself.
It is. Everybody experience that in a different way, and they handle it in different ways. And there's no one way.
Yeah.
But her light still is bright and shining today. She's providing scholarship monies to 4 families going to the University of South Carolina, and she's creating about $100,000 a year of income for people. So she's pretty productive on the other side.
That's fantastic. And what's your daughter's name?
Constance Ariel.
Constance Ariel, what a beautiful name. And we hold her in this conversation. So let's talk about this, the awakened investor. It's such an interesting concept. I don't know if I consider myself an awakened investor or not, but I did just recently have a meeting with our financial planner where my spouse and I wanted to go through all of our investments and make sure that we weren't invested in any companies that don't support our values, that don't align with our values. So we came out of a bunch of, very popular high-end stocks that my financial planner looked sideways at us for. But I had no problem with it. I felt, even if it means my portfolio isn't as productive, I would rather have a less productive portfolio, but know that my money is aligned with my values. So what do you teach about being an awakened investor, and how does it impact people's lives?
Well, the awakened investor actually was developed out of my 39 years observing the financial industry.
Okay.
Because, before people came to me with their assets and lives to manage, they were somewhere else. And so I got to see what other investment firms and financial planning firms were doing with people and managing their lives. And I just saw so many egregious acts that had been taking place in the United States with other people's money. What I observed was that Bank Street, Insurance Street, and Wall Street, I call them Financial Street to keep it shorter. Um, they know how to manipulate the consumer's mind better than the consumer knows their own mind. They know how to impact the amygdala, that reptilian mind. And so through their storytelling, through the media, which is complicit with Financial Street, they encourage people to move their money around. Moving money in motion to Financial Street, it's profits in their pocket. Now, they don't mind if the consumer makes a profit, but they're going to get theirs first. And then the broker is going to get his second. And then the consumer is left third in line in that equation. And so what I wanted to do with the book was to help wake up people to who Financial Street was. And then I wanted to talk about capitalism, because most people look at capitalism as Financial Street. And capitalism is separate from Financial Street. Financial Street is simply middlemen to the capital markets. Capitalism has raised all of humanity up by its bootstraps to where we are today. It's been phenomenal. I mean, all it is a way of all of us, 8 billion people on the planet, of exchanging goods and services in an accountable way that we collectively agreed upon. And then through the fortune of publicly traded companies, we're able to participate in that process of humanity's growth. And so I talk about capitalism so people can have faith in capitalism and investing, but know that we don't need the middlemen. And then I go into an aspect to unveil who we are as individual human beings, because most people feel like there's this skin encapsulated bag of bones with 5 dulled down senses. We're not connected to anything. The unconscious person sees that last slice of the economic pie, and they just rush to grab it as fast as they can, because they know that if they don't get it, somebody else is. The conscious person says, go ahead and take it. I'm just going to make another pie, because they feel connected to everything. They're connected to their higher self, consciousness, to God, Atman, whatever you relate your non-physical body to living in this world.
Yeah.
And so I help people to know that they're more than this physical experience, that they can tap into this infinite intelligence and help that support them in their human experience. Mm-hmm. And then I show them a pathway, a tool to work with, to tap into these capital markets to help them with their wealth resources. And I do that in using a multidisciplinary team of advisors. Now, a lot of people will say, well, I've got my team, but they're usually talking about the 2 or 3 people in the investment office. The team I created is a team of investment wealth managers, financial planner, insurance advisor, not a salesman, a real estate advisor, a CPA, and an attorney.
That's great.
That's the wealth team. And what I can say, and I started to develop that in 1997 when I formed my investment advisory firm. And I didn't know how everybody else in the country did. I just know how I wanted to do it. I use my client meetings as my laboratory, that feedback loop of information that you get from your clients to understand what else I needed to provide them to enhance this journey that we're all on. And so through the years, that feedback loop was telling me, bring in CPA on staff, bring in an attorney on staff, bring in the real estate advisor on staff. And eventually, before I sold that firm 4.5 years ago, I brought in an Ayurvedic practitioner for mind, body, spirit.
Wow. That's fantastic.
Because I was having clients come up to me personally and asking me to teach them to meditate. Nice. And how to heal. And so I can't do everything.
Yeah.
And so I parse that out to an expert for that. And so that was the team that was put together. And I have to say, in a humbling way, no one of us on that team, the professionals, aren't irreplaceable. I mean, there are a lot of high quality, talented people in our field across the United States. But what made that magic is we were all together every day talking about every client situation every day. Yes. And nobody had to worry about scheduling on their calendar to get on somebody else's calendar. or working with somebody that they didn't understand their philosophy about something. We were philosophically aligned. We would challenge each other collegially around financial strategies. But at the end of the day, once we did all the math work, there's just usually one best strategy available. And then that's what we presented to our families. And we're operating from their family mission statement. And so we acted as the family's fiduciaries, and that's how you get an alignment and managing your wealth affairs.
Beautiful. I love that. That is, but you're not doing that any longer. You've sold that company and
Well, I sold it, and then I took a 2-year sabbatical, and then I wrote the book, The Awakened Investor. And along the way, I recreated the career that I'm having now with Luminous Wealth.
okay.
And that was inspired out of the aspect that I recognize that through the years, and I worked with a lot of these families for 30 plus years, I thought, if I met or exceeded their financial goals, that they would wind up people being enjoy, happy, content with their lives. And it wasn't the case. Money didn't make the difference in their lives. And in fact, one of my wealthiest clients was my most stressed out client. He actually got Bell palsy from his position of a publicly traded company. And so he had to retire early. And thank God, within a couple of years, he retained full health again. But it impacted his life in a major way. And this go round, I wanted to be able to provide a solution to that aspect of who we are.
Yeah, I love that. I'd love to hear more about your interplay with, awakened wealth and the blue zones for longevity and well-being. I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, as you know, there's several cultures around the planet that have this longevity and the highest quality of lives. And so money can't be managed in a silo. It has an interrelated quality to all these other major aspects of who we are. So what we work with and our what we call our 8 aspects is, of course, we talked about finance, but physical health, mindfulness, home aesthetics, your environment, home and work aesthetics, self-care, social interactions, relationships, diet, and spirituality. And so, your finances can be affected by your health. Your career can affect your mental and physical health. Your relationships can impact who you're going to choose on your estate plans. And your emotional intelligence is going to impact those discerning choices we need to have on all aspects of who we are. And so, back in 1250 AD, the etymology of wealth was weal. It was Weale. And in 1250 AD, weal meant prosperity, health, and well-being. And then somewhere in the 1400s, the Dutch dumbed it down to just this thing called money. And so all we're doing at Luminous Wealth is returning back to the etymology of what weal really meant to us. And it's, most of us in our society, we define somebody as successful based on how much money they have, right? But if somebody that has $1 billion and they're on a lung machine and nobody in their family wants to be around them because of their nasty personality, that's not well.
Yeah.
And what I want to do is bring wealth to each of the 8 aspects in order to feel like we're living a wealthy life. So
I love that.
yeah.
I love that. So you're still working with clients in a holistic way. So you do help them with their investing and their estate planning, but you do that in a holistic way.
Absolutely. So yeah, I start out with developing a human archetype assessment. So it's really important for all of us to know thyself. To know thyself is to know all reality. What's reality? Reality is what's eternal.
Mm-hmm.
What we're here in this physical body, this illusion we call Maya, is a temporary space and time. And so it's important for me to work from the place of knowing thyself. But there's 2 aspects of knowing ourselves. So, it's great if I can get someone to say, yes, I know thyself as eternity I'm 99% there with this person because they feel connected to source. They feel connected to consciousness. Um, they're feeling whole. But the other knowing thyself is the self that we've been programmed to be. So, whether you believe in reincarnation or not, you know that we came from this ancestral DNA, and then we're in mom's womb for 9 months, and we're taking on her chemistry and her feelings and her emotions. And then we're here in the first 7 years, and our mind is in that theta frequency. Well, we're just a sponge for our environment with our minds at that frequency. And then at age 7, it matures into a beta frequency. And that's what you and I are operating in right now. I can say something and you go, that's not true. Or let's think about something else. But when we're in theta, we can't say no to that. And we can't say that's not true. And we're just absorbing that as the truth. And so what we wind up being in those 7 years is our minds are the garbage bin for everybody else's desires and limitations in life and these experiences that we're having while we're in that span of time. Yeah. And then what happens is most people will spend the rest of their life with that programming. Mm-hmm. It's an unexamined life. It's a life I call that you've been fated to. But for some people, and it usually takes a pain event to happen, they can wake up and they can start to see the cause of why they're doing things, and they can see what their limiting beliefs are. And then they can understand that they can change these limiting beliefs through some real work on their own, through breath work, through meditation, through yoga, through hypnotherapy, and so forth. Now, when somebody is starting to open up to their authenticity, this light that they've been incarnated into this body from, now they're living a life that they can choose, and one that I call as a life and destiny because they've chosen it now. It's not been fated to.
Nice. I love that. I love that. I'm so curious in the concrete ways that you help people. So what are some simple things that people can do to use their human archetype to be awakened and improve their experience with money?
Well, first is just to become aware of them, right? And that's what part of this human archetype assessment does that we do for people. It's based on Carl Jung's work of creating, of finding the broad persona that we are emulating. And then we get down and drill down into unique thumbprint of each one of those personas. It is actually developed by this brilliant guy, Hugh Massey, out of Atlanta with DNA behavior.
I know Hugh Massey. He's been on this podcast before.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I use that as my first go-to. And what that does is it helps reveal not only those traits that we have that serve us, those repeating patterns of behavior, but it also then will reveal those blind spots, those biases that we don't recognize, that, we're having these issues in life and we keep blaming the outer world for these issues that we keep having, but we're the cause of all of that. Yeah. And so it'll reveal those. People have these blind spots because they are so much of that trait. Water doesn't know itself to be wet and fire doesn't know itself to be hot. So when you have that bias, you're so much of that, you can't see that you have that.
Yeah, cool.
And usually when I bring in a couple into our space to talk about these assessments, and we start talking about with each partner, one partner will start out and they'll say, that was 95% me, but this other little 5% over there, that's me at all. And usually 100% of the time, the partner across the table from them has this big grin on their face and they're pointing their finger and they said, that's exactly who you are. So it's a great process to start to see it and become aware of what these issues are so that you can then begin to work on them. If you're always blind to those, you're always blaming the outer world for your circumstances. And we have to take personal responsibility with literally everything that's happening in our lives. Yeah. And that's where the awareness of God is within, the goddess is within us, really can take shape and hold that and express that immense power that we have within us.
It's really beautiful. So you're really of the mind that our experience with money really is, you are first cause. It really is driven from your consciousness, from how you're facing life. Am I hearing you correctly?
Absolutely. In fact, a couple of years ago, I was asked to attend this executive meeting. There was 20 firms represented at this, and the gentleman started out the day of his conversation with the comment. He said, money is the biggest stressor in America. And this was going to launch his speech for the day. And I raised my hand. I said, no, it's not. And he said, well, you want to say more? I said, it's your mind. Master your mind. You master your money. You master your relationships. You master your career. You master your health. It's all mind. I mean, the universal principles of hermetics will tell you that. Everything is mental. Money is just a tool. It's a neutral tool. It's like nuclear power. It can light up cities or blow up people. And it's the character that's revealed through the use of the tool that makes it good or bad. It's not the tool itself. And so money is just an extension, and it's an expression. It's an outer expression of what our internal state is. And so we work real hard on building inner security so that people can have a great outer securities to handle.
That's great. Jai, you know that I'm 100% on board with you. I teach the exact same things in my Money Vibe work. And I want us to go a little bit deeper and challenge ourselves with this notion that it's all mind. The experience we're having in America and largely across Europe as well is that the middle class is disappearing. The amount of billionaires is exponentially grown over the last decade. People who were, considered middle class before, lower middle class, are now definitely living in poverty. So the middle class is being hollowed out. And current financial policies look like that trend is going to continue, at least for the foreseeable future. Speak to that for the person who's, facing that reality. I was at an airport not long ago, and it was really early in the morning, like 5 a.m. or something. And the gal serving my coffee, I was chatting with her, and she had gotten home from her night shift job at midnight after an 11 o'clock shift, and she had to get up at 4 to get in for her 5 a.m. shift. And I was just like, wow, that's real resilience. And I've lived that life. I was raised pretty poor myself, lower middle class family. My mom was widowed when I was real young. I worked three jobs through college, three jobs through graduate school. So I've been there, but it's been a long time ago. So I don't know, Jai, let's dive into this a little bit with the economic trends that are happening in our world. How do you speak to that in light of what you and I both teach and believe?
Well, when we're having personal experiences that aren't so hot, we can look out into the world and listen to the media for our truths. And it's not always true that what we're thinking about our lives, it's happening to everybody else. In fact, economists will show you 4 different economic stratas in America, and they will go back to early 70s to now, and they'll show you the lowest income strata, and then the lower middle, upper middle, and then the high income area, and the percentage of people in each one. And the percentage in the high and the low are still the same. But you're right. There's a change between the lower middle and the upper middle. And the change is there's more gone to the upper middle. So actually, economically, we're actually doing better than what the TV wants us to believe. And now that's not to say that I wish that, the super wealthy and the corporations that are doing so well wouldn't share more in their communities. I mean, Adam Smith wrote the Wealth of Nations. And back then when he wrote that book, when corporations made excessive profits that they could never expect to happen for unknown reasons, they gave those excessive profits down to the employees and out to the community. They were more benevolent. But, that was in a period where really, I think people were more conscious. Yeah. I think, there's a couple angles to go here. One is we live in a have, do, be world. People arrive in adulthood, they see what they want to have, They go do what they have to do to get it. A lot of times, they've sacrificed their morals, their integrity, and a lot of the other balance in their lives. And then that's who they've become. There's another way to be, do, have. That's the authentic. And this takes more time in the beginning. It takes less time as you get older. But in the beginning, you become self-aware, and you find what your authentic passions are. And then you take on the education, the tools, the skill sets needed to express that in its fullest way. You express your passions in service and in manufacturing things and painting things or sharing experiences. And out of that, you're going to be rewarded. And then whatever those rewards are, you will figure out how to create a lifestyle around that.
Mm. Mm.
So that's manageable. And that person, even if the rewards aren't great, if they're small or if they're great, they're still enjoying, they're in content
Yeah.
of what they're doing. But when you start from the other end, and then you're left with and troubles, you don't have any kind of inner resources to fall back on.
Nothing to fall back on.
You're empty.
So in the summers, I live in a very rural part of upstate New York and in the Thousand Islands region. And there's a huge Amish community up here. And I'm going to be tearing down the cottage that I'm sitting in about 2 months. And I have an Amish team that's coming in to do the rebuild, the Amish builders. So I was meeting with them and, talking over various aspects of the build. And one of the things I said to them, because I know Amish lifestyle pretty well, because I've lived up here for my whole life, really. It's my hometown. So I asked the guy, I said, you don't have health insurance? He said, no. And I said, so if you get injured on the job and you don't have any kind of a license, you don't have any kind of liability, like nothing. He's like, no, we don't have any of that. I said, so how do I know I'm not going to end up responsible for your medical bills? Did you fall off of, the roof or whatever, break your leg? And he just laughed and he said, no, that's not how we do it. And he went on to tell me that they had a guy in his Amish community last year or so that did have a bad fall, fell off a roof, broke his back, was paralyzed for quite a while from the waist down. And the community had to go to a meeting. There was like a meeting called about him. They pooled their funds to pay his medical bills. And then they set up a care plan of what family was responsible for his care while his family continued to take care of the farm and do their work. And they had a rotation for about a year of caring for this person who had had a fall. And they just came in with, here's what the bills are. Here's what we all need to pay in order to take care of this. Mm-hmm. It's stunning to me to hear that. I'm curious what your thoughts are hearing that.
I love that. I love the village effect of people. And you can have villages in big cities, but it's just not quite the same as what you just described.
Yeah.
But I think when you're building community and you're relying on each other and you know each other's names, this is the way life is. Right. And we've gotten away from that, especially in the world of microwaves and TikTok.
Yeah.
Everybody's looking out there.
Shorts and reels, like everyone wants their enlightenment delivered in 30-minute segments.
Absolutely. So what we have to look, my observation broadly is, 6 decades ago, our country was basically religious, Christian for the most part. People would go to church. I don't know whether they all believed in what they were doing or not, but they went, and at least I gave them a rule book for how to work with other people. But then, what happened was the nuclear family broke up. Now mom is out of the house as well. We're not going to church anymore. Our kids are being raised by the government. And then all of a sudden we start struggling with our finances, and now we start not liking each other. And so it's just been an implosion. And we've gone through 6 decades where we've lost connection with our spiritual self. Mm-hmm. That's the base solution for all this. You can't start at the top by going, oh, well, just I heard there's a job down the street. Go take the skill course and then you'll get that job. No, you got to go back to the beginning. And, sometimes people are going to feel like they're backing up in nature when they start to build their own personal foundation of who they are. When they get back, when they spend time in silence with themselves, let their God speak to them, let them find that passion. Maybe you have to go back to school. Maybe you're feeling like you're backing up, but you're building something that's going to forge the best version of you that you're going to find out to be. And it's a journey.
Yeah.
It's not a handout, and people wanting handouts today. And it takes work to do this, but the work starts from a conscious connection.
Beautiful. It does start from a conscious connection and having that time and space and passion and drive to do the inner work. I have to go back to something you said, that it started with when moms weren't at home when they went to the workplace. Yeah, the problem with that is that dads didn't step up and fill that void. So I don't want to leave it in the space that it was moms going to work that was the problem. It was that we weren't able to fill that gap as the nuclear family, either, bring in the grandparents or the dads take on a bigger role. I mean, we're still in a time that women are in the workplace and do 90% of the household work and family.
Yeah, they do it all.
They do it all. So I didn't leave that hanging out there.
No, I was blessed with my growing up. I had the two of the best parents that a person could have. And my mom was like Mother Teresa. She did everything the feminine energy could provide to the world. She took care of literally everybody, including her kids. And then when my younger brother turned 13, then she went to work as a commercial loan officer who wound up retiring at Bank of America. So this woman did it all.
She did do it all. That's awesome. It's lovely to hear that you had wonderful parents. Jai, we need to wrap up. You've brought in such an interesting perspective on this conversation about money. I really appreciate it. Tell people again what your website is and how they can do the assessment that you were talking about on your website.
Yeah, thank you. My website is luminouswealth.com. And you can, when you get to that page, look in the banner and there's human archetype. Just click on that and it'll take you to another page where you can register to take a 46-question quiz that will develop right after you're finished, a report that's very valuable, and it'll also include a couple of videos for you to look at as well.
Yeah.
And it's great information to know that.
Yeah, I know people are going to want to reach out to you, Jai, and I just so appreciate your wisdom and your strength and what you've brought to the conversation and to our audience today at the Conscious Living Podcast. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you, Jackie, for the opportunity. Namaste.
Namaste.